بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك الشاهدين والشاهدين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So again, welcome officially to class. My father is not being feeling so well. He had a fever and a flu. His temperature's gone down, alhamdulillah. The wheezing, the coughing, the chest congestion, as well as his weakness of the body is really overwhelming at the current moment. So please make dua for his health. He really misses being here, and he is yearning to be here because this is what he wants to do for the rest of his life. And so he misses being here at the moment. So please make dua for him. He wished he could have been here, but he has sent me instead to do whatever music I can of covering the topics, inshallah ta'ala. We had gone over the rules of law before. What would the conditions be in order for you to recite the letters of law or the rules of law in Fatham, right? Strong, very full mouth. Now we're going over the law. So the letters of law, there were other rules before had to do with all the strong sound of law. When the fatha was on the law, when the fathatain was on the law, then we would know that it would be recited thick. If it was before that, and the law had sakin, it would be recited thick as well. And if we were trying to stop at the letter law, we would look at the previous letter, and that would still be thick. And so we realized that those are all the conditions in which the letter law is to be recited thick. We're going to restart about the letters of law, and when they are pronounced softly. There are some rules here that will repeat from the conditions, the exceptions of the previous section. You know how we covered that if sometimes the musta'aliya or the mutlaqa letters, they come, then the letter will be said softly. Well, those will be repeated in this section here. So we'll just go over them as a review so that inshallah we can move on to the next topic after that and hopefully save some time. Because they have been repeated here for your understanding that because they are softly recited letters, that's why they've been put in this category as well. But as we move forward, inshallah, you'll see what I mean. We talked about this slide, I believe we started, we might not have. The rules of law, right? The first rule was that if there's a kasra or the mean of kasra on the letter itself, so underneath it, it will be recited softly. Makes sense, right? It's a very simple concept. That if there's kasra or the mean of kasra underneath the letter law, it's recited softly. That's the standard. The other standard here, some examples here. Rin. That's with the mean of law, the mean of kasra underneath the law. That's why the letter law here is recited softly. Shaddi is another softly pronounced section. And then risalatin. Li is a thin sound. Risalatin. These are the softly recited letters. The next, well, we'll go ahead and have you try it out for your own review, or for your own sake of your own practice. Why not? You got these words?
Amrin.
Sure. You know the next one as well.
Sharin.
Shadri.
Shari. رسالة
رسالات
رسالة
رسالات
رسالة
أمر شر رسالات. Alhamdulillah. It's great. Again, these are all the rules we're covering that's talking about the letter of law. Letter of law being recited thin. Why? Because of the letter Ra that is underneath the letter Ra. That is why it will be recited thin. The next rule here is if the letter Ra is sakin and the preceding letter bears a kasra, the letter Ra is to be recited softly. We recited and remember that from the rules we talked about for the fatha and fathatayn, the same rules apply. That if there is a sakin on a letter, what do? You look at the previous letter. The previous letter has, if it has a kasra, you'll recite it the same way, you'll recite it softly. So this is a simple rule that goes with the letter Ra and the conditions that are around the letter Ra. So right now we covered the first simple one, which was that if the letter Ra itself has a kasra or kasratayn, how you recite it. And the second rule is if the letter Ra has a sakin, how would you look at the recitation? You would look at the previous letter, and the previous letter here has a kasra. So therefore, it'll be recited
then muraqqaq.
Just carefully remind you.
So, does that make sense? Simple rule here, and that is just that if the letter itself does not have it, what do you look at? Previous letter. If the previous letter has a kasra, then we recite empty mouth or thin and muraqqaq. Does anyone want to try out the letter? Just to give an example, you want to try out this example here? Yes, go ahead.
All the letters.
Well, you haven't done it yet, so why not? Amrin. Okay. 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 Firdaus. That's exactly right. Feed, very thin sound on this letter here. Why? Because the Ra is sakin, and therefore you have to look at the previous letter. The previous letter has a kasra. And so therefore, the letter Ra will be recited softly. Simple idea, right? Any questions so far?
No.
No? Okay. Inshallah, we'll keep going. Again, I mentioned before in the beginning of the class today that these rules that we're talking about now, the muraqqaq, the softly pronounced rules, some of them will be repeated from the previous category, from the previous section. Why? Because of the fact that there were exceptions before. So now we'll learn why the exceptions are. So that's why we're covering them again. Because they belong in this category. And the reason why we mentioned them before was because they were different than reciting it thick. They were recited thin. So those conditions we're going to review today, inshallah. So again, these are the first two. Please pay attention. When the Ra has a kasra underneath it, it'll be recited thin. If there's a sakin before that letter has a kasra, it'll be recited thin. Here's another rule that if you're stopping at the letter, now this is the review I was talking about. We talked about in the first few sections of the letter Ra, the first few rules, that if there are any of the mutbaqa letters, right? Remember this? We explained that before, right? Remember this? These were the letters that if ever they came after the letter Ra, sakin, you would recite them thin, even if there is a fatha. Even if there was a fatha before. Right? So those were the exceptions listed in the rules before. Now they're being added into these rules because this is the standard in this way. So don't be too confused. It's just the same thing being repeated over again. But explaining to you that they're supposed to be recited softly. That's why my father has compiled them underneath the rules of the murakkab letters, and that's why it looks like as if it's being repeated again, in which it is. But just know that why it is. We explained this, that there are these 4 different letters, and if they ever arrive after, I'm sorry. So here, let's talk about this. With the stop, the letter Ra is sakin, and the preceding letter, with the closed letters, is sakin, and the letter preceding this has a kasra, the letter is to be recited softly. So here's what he's talking about. That here are these specific letters here. Hold on. Those are the correct examples. Inshallah, I'll fix that slide. But again, you understand the idea of mutmaqan closed letters here. We talked about that if there are 4 letters that they come after. This is I'll ask what's going on here. I'll find out inshallah and let you know. But it's just explaining here without the letters, without these examples. Do you understand that if there's a letter of Ra and you're stopping, but because of the fact that there are these specific letters there, they will make the letter of Ra recite softly. If you can understand that much, inshallah, then that will be sufficient. But I'll get this clarification from my father, inshallah. But these specific letters will allow you to make sure that even if there's a fatha before it, you will still recite this softly. And this is an exception that was explained before, but now it's known as the standard. Because it is in softly recited rules. So bear with me here, inshallah. We'll go ahead and skip to the next one here. That if there's a dhamma tanween, or a fatha over the letter Ra, and the preceding letter bears a kasra, the letter with the stop is pronounced softly. So, simply put, how would you recite something if you're going to continue? And the letter Ra has a fatha or a fathatayn or dhammatain. How would you? Thick. You recite thick. Why? Because of the fact that it has dhamma or dhammatain or dhammatanween or fathatanween. No matter what, you are reciting that letter correctly. Correct? Does that make sense? But if you're stopping at that letter, what do you have to do? Now, all of a sudden, the Ra doesn't have the same characteristics of the fathatanween or the dhammatanween or the dhamma on it. So what do you have to do? You have to make it Ra. You have to make the Ra sakin, and then you look at the previous letter. If the previous letter has a Ra, recite softly, that's it. Okay? So he is explaining to you that if the Ra is not naturally the sukoon, and you have to create a sukoon on the letter Ra because you want to stop on it, then you will recite it softly. Or else if you're continuing, it will be recited
thick.
Heavy, because of the fact that you are reciting the letter Ra with the haraka on it. That's all it is. He just wants to very, very specifically, in detail, break down every single step so that you understand it very, very clearly. And if there are any other confusion, or if there's any other explanation, or if you have any questions, you can definitely ask inshallah. But know that this is what he wants to do, is that he wants to explain to you that the simple idea of putting a sakin on the letter Ra when it doesn't have one, initially, what are the impacts of that? Is that if it actually does have dhamma or fatha or dhamma tanween or fatha tanween on it, you recite it properly, you recite thick if you're reciting it continuously in wasl. But if you're doing waqf, then you will stop on the letter Ra by putting a sukoon on it, and if there's a kasra before it, it will now extract the same characteristics. And now you recite it softly. That's the idea. So here, and the example is that normally it will be written as the way it is written on the left, with the tanween of dhamma on the letter Ra. But if you're going to stop, all of a sudden that letter Ra gets a sakin, correct? Gets a sukoon on it. So all of a sudden, the example, لَقَادِرٌ, with a very thick sounding, very heavy sounding attribute or condition or pronunciation, will now be recited لَقَادِرٌ, did, and very thin, very soft, لَقَادِرٌ, did. Why? Because it will be looking at the kasra before the ra sound. Simply put, right? Simple example. Explanation is simple. That if the letter ra is forced to put a sakin on it because of the stopping, the waqf here, then you look at the previous letter. The previous letter has a kasra, and you will recite it soft. Questions? Does it make sense so far? Another example here. Al-muddathiru. This is the steed there. Al-muddathiru. The ra has a dhamma. If you are going to recite this, wasl, meaning continuation, in continuation, the ra will be recited thick. But if you are going to stop at the letter here, then therefore you look at the previous letter. The previous letter has a what?
Kasra.
A kasra, and therefore you'll recite this letter thin. So, al-muddathiru turns into al-muddathir. Another example is given to you here. Nuqira. Nuqira, the thick sounding pronunciation, will be changed to nuqid if you are stopping. Nuqid, very thin, very soft recitation. So, before we go there forward, why don't we have you guys practice these? If you have to recite them from the beginning and recite them in front. Would you like to try?
Do it.
Why don't you show from the left first, and then go to the right.